field, this will already be off there. So you see, you got a joint, you got juice up here, even right there, and then it starts tapering down. So you want to get a good angle because you're gonna have to go in the mill with it. A better angle will help go in the road to the mill. Everything sharp. Yep. Well, I like to have a feel for this right here. Get a feel for that and see those eyes, how healthy those eyes are. That eye's already trying to make a stalk of cane.
So today we're looking at sugar cane. Now sugar cane is what's used to make sugar. Most of it is grown in South America and Brazil. The rest of it's grown in the United States, Florida, Louisiana, and Texas. But here in South Georgia, cane is used mostly to make cane syrup and also chewing cane. Back when I was coming up, at the stores around this time of the year that have chewing cane outside the stores, you could buy so much a stick and chew the cane. Today we're out here at Andy Weeks' farm, and it is Andy. Is Randy or Andy?
I answer to most anything.
Okay, well anyway, we're out here at Randy's farm, and we're going to talk about different kinds of cane. Now this particular one here, what kind is it?
It's ribbon cane. It's what you're going to chew.
That's chewing cane.
Yeah, it's soft. It chews real well. Got a good flavor and juicy.
Yeah. Well, this is the way we used to do it right here. These nodes right in here, you cut these nodes out, and then you take your knife and score it around like that right there, and it'd cut off, and then you'd do the other way, that way right there. And it'd break off.
Now, see, you grew up in town.
Oh, really?
And y'all was cleaner. Y'all had cleaner hands than we did. We always got us an extra one to hold on to.
Oh, okay, okay.
So we was on the farm, they don't tell what we've been grabbing up to.
Yeah. And then you would take this right here and carry it back like that right there. And you do the same thing again, and then you bite it off and chew it. So we got ribbon cane, and that's mostly made for chewing. That don't do real good for syrup then.
Oh, it all does good for syrup.
But it's just a sulfur.
It's better for chewing because it's easier on your teeth.
Okay.
This right here is that old timey soft green cane. It chews well, but it makes real good syrup, makes clear syrup. But the only problem with this cane is you just about got to replant it every year. It don't winter over real well.
What is the lifespan of cane, sugar cane?
Well, you get 3 years. After the 3rd year, you're probably going to start seeing your stalks get real skinny. You're going to have to, you just pretty much kind of got to keep planting all along, and that way you've always got some at every stage, so you don't wind up with 1 year you don't have any cane, or if you was to have a real cold winter or something, you might lose some of it. So if you plant your row every year, just keep it going, you got some at all stages. But about 3 years, first year you got pretty good cane, the 2nd year, but the 3rd year you might start seeing it get a little bit small on you.
So the name of this again was?
This is an old timey soft green cane.
Okay.
But it'll if you don't cover it, if you don't bed it up, you row up and cover it. If you have a cold winter, you'll lose it. And this one right here, this is what a friend of mine's wanting me to plant a row of. This is just a green cane. It's got these long joints in there.
Well, this is a good bit smaller than the other ones is.
Well, yeah, but I didn't have a lot of money for fertilizer this year. And And instead of going organic, I figured if I just didn't put anything out there, I'd be better off. I could say I was organic or whatever I wanted to. But it should be a little bit bigger stalk if I'd have fertilized it. But
And the name of it is?
it's just a green cane, long jointed green cane, I guess. We call it long john or something, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that'll work for me.
A lot of these cane, these old guys, they just didn't have a name for it. It's just cane. You don't find a lot of old timey canes when you go to talk about cane.
Oh, really? That's kind of a unique name, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a bunch of old timey, and that's another one of those.
And it's got a green in there. Is this the same? Or is this a different?
This cane here is supposed to be one that they did develop at the experiment station up there in Tifton.
So this is a hybrid or a newer variety. The others, some of them could
yeah.
be considered heirlooms, but this was a newer variety.
Yeah, but we're talking newer. We're still talking probably 40 years old.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think it'd be a hybrid. It's just a variety. In other words, it'll stay true to what it is. It'll keep reproducing as it is.
Okay.
I don't know how they make a new variety.
And this is used for syrup also, one of the syrup.
This is a good syrup cane. It's green cane, and you mix a little red in there with it, you'll make a real pretty clear syrup. And this is yellow gal. Most everybody, these old guys, they call it yellow gal, but it's yellow gal. So. But you can see it when it's growing in the field. You can look out there and say you can easily recognize it because it's got that yellow side on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can easily see that's yellow. This makes a good syrup right here. It'd be too hard for chewing. And this one right here is a red. This is the one I'd like to have. If you had a field full of that, you could make you some syrup. So this makes a big stalk.
It seems to have a little shorter joints than some of the rest of it does.
Well, there's some out there that's got joints ain't half this long.
So if a fellow was wanting to plant him a little small patch of cane, how would he go about doing that?
Well, if you just go find somebody that's got some cane and buy a few stalks from them, or get them to give you some. Or when I first got mine going, I went to where he was grinding them little short pieces they throwed out. Didn't want to stick them in the mill. I brought home planted. Got me some started. You know, this stalk of cane here might make 50 stalks, or next year they ain't no telling what you'd get off of this one stalk.
So you would cut it up when you plant it, and how would you plant it? Would you lay it down in the furrow, make a furrow, or what?
Well, generally the way they do it, they open up a furrow and then they just lay the stalks down in there.
So you'd lay the whole complete stalk down in the furrow.
Whole stalk in there, and then you might, according to how good a stand you wanted, you might lay 2 or 3. You know, so you'd have a continuous run. But I'm gonna try something this year. I'm gonna cut the joints like that right there, so that the eye will have a little bit of stalk on each side of it, and plant it with the eye facing up. Because as thick as I planted that cane out there last year, and the skips in there, the only thing I can figure is if that eye is pointing down, and they're not all on the same side of a stalk. See, these are on the opposite side. So if that eye is planting down, this one's up. This might come up, make a stalk, and that might not never. I don't know.
Right.
So I'm gonna try to have all the eyes planting up. That's what I did with my potatoes this year, and I had
Yeah, we've always planted our
Nice
potatoes
potato.
eyes up. So what kind of furrow would you put this in? How deep of a furrow would you plant this?
Probably 8-10 inches.
8 to 10 inches in. Would you just cover it up or hill it up?
I just covered it up, but a friend of mine's been giving me some directions. He said I needed to bed it up, but I never did do it because I didn't want that bed there to fill up with weeds, and then, you know, if you're going to basically have it there 3 years, and if you got that bed mounted up and weeds get up in it, it's just going to be harder to clean out. And my idea was to keep it flat where I could keep the weeds down. Most of these old guys, when they was farming, I know Daddy, when he'd planting corn, last trip through the corn, when you could just get over it, they throw that bed up.
Yeah.
Well, they was covering up as many weeds as they could to give
That's
that
exactly
corn a head
right.
start. And that was the idea with the cane. I just didn't want to do that because I started off with it clean, and I pretty much kept it clean all year long. But you gotta
Yeah,
do a little hoeing.
it looks real good. Now, let's talk about fertility. What would a fella put in there as far as fertilizer? Do you put fertilizer in now when you plant it? Do you side dress it later? What do you do there?
No, you wouldn't want to put nothing in there when you plant it because it's going to be 6 months before it comes up. You don't want it coming up until after the cold weather's gone.
So you would plant it when? What time of the year?
I'm gonna plant next week.
You'd plant in the fall, because it's the end of October now. So you would plant in the fall, and then it would lay there pretty much dormant all winter. Then it sprouts up and comes up in the springtime. And when it comes up in the springtime, is that the time to put fertilizer to it?
I guess you could. I guess you could fertilize it before it come up if you wanted to, but I don't really know a lot about fertilizer because I didn't put a lot. I put some cottonseed meal out there, and fella told me you got to do that for the something about the phosphorus. I don't know. It was all over my head. All I know is what worked.
So you put cottonseed meal out there, and that was it.
I put a little bit of 10-10-10. I made one bag of 10-10-10 on those 3 rows of cane.
Okay. All right. So cottonseed meal is a source of phosphorus you put out there, and that stands to reason because you're trying to get these roots developed on this cane, and then the 10-10-10 to kind of pump it along. All right, so we're going to take a little break and go out there to the cane field and look at some of the ones standing up out there. Okay, so we're out here in the cane patch. Now what variety is this?
Well, this is some we just showed up there. We got some red and green and some yellow gal, and a little bit of ribbon down there on the end of the road.
Now, does it normally grow like this right here, or?
Well, you're going to see a lot of it like this, but it was pretty and straight clumps till a couple months ago. We had a wind come through here worse than I've ever seen. It was about worse than the Hurricane Kate that time was, and it blowed it over and twisted it up, and that's why it's so crooked.
Now, cane grows in clumps, so it stays fairly close to where you planted at. Now, you put drip irrigation under this, which would be highly recommended, I can imagine, because it's nearly impossible to water this overhead. So talk about your drip irrigation.
Well, if I was going to plant a row of cane, I'd put drip on it, because I think that's why. Because obviously I haven't put hardly any fertilizer out here, but I've had the drip running now for almost 3 months. Hadn't even turned it off. When the cane's in the dirt and dormant, it don't need no water. But once it starts coming up, start making a stalk. I don't think you can put too much water.
Okay. So I'm gonna cut a piece of this cane off. Now you would come up here and take the top off first, and you'd take it off at the angle like what we talked about.
Well, if you was harvesting, you strip the fodder off of it first, and then you top it, and then cut it down.
So you take this right here and strip the fodder off this way, right?
Right. Well, we got a tool for it. You can do it with that. And you try to cut it as close to the ground as you can, because you don't want that stubble sticking up very far, because then it's something to have to contend with weeds.
Huh? All right. Well, I hope you learned a little bit about sugarcane today. We appreciate you watching, and make sure you check out our other videos and subscribe to our channel.